Nowadays, people are spending less and less money on entertainment media, which means music, books, movies, and theatre. I doubt it means that they stopped using such media, as they are just so important and dear to us. So, what has been going on? Well, the means through which we consume creative content have changed drastically over the last decade. It can be attributed to the development of different internet platforms. So nowadays we have music streaming services such as Spotify or Pandora instead of buying the physical CDs. Courses online from the best teachers instead of going to expensive and time-consuming schools. Online newspapers instead of buying newspapers in the shop. Video content streaming services such as Netflix or HBO Go instead of buying DVDs. There are even theatre spectacles available online. So you no longer need to pay big money or spend a lot of time obtaining the entertainment that you love. Seems amazing, right? But who really pays for your comfort? All these services enable access to content by just one simple click of a mouse from the comfort of your own couch. But most importantly, they are all free or charge a very small fee. So think about it for a minute. How much do you spend monthly on the entertainment that you experience? 54% of Americans go to the movies less often than once per month. But nearly 60% of them are streaming, mostly with Netflix, which costs as little as $9 a month. Today, streaming accounts for 75% of all the revenues that are made in the American music industry. What does it mean for the artists in terms of their income? The minimum wage in the US is currently $1,260. In order for solo artists to earn it, they would need to sell 105 self-distributed CDs, or nearly 550 album downloads on iTunes. Or if they wanted to reach the same goal on Spotify, their song would need to be streamed about 1,200,000 times. YouTube is known for paying artists the least, so their song would need to be streamed 4,200,000 times. From the data we have seen, it seems as if artists are experiencing exploitation to a great extent. They are creating valuable content and getting minimal payments for it. However, Chad Hurley, a CEO and co-founder of YouTube, defends his service against being called exploitative.
Well, we wouldn't exist if people weren't creating content. I mean, that's the bottom line. I always tell people we're the stage. They're the performers. But I don't look at us as a service as trying to exploit that. What we're trying to do is just provide the opportunities that didn't exist before, free opportunities for them to do so. If they don't want to post to YouTube, or if they have existing content they want to take down, they're always free to do so. We're not trying to control them or their content or their experience, but we're ultimately always just trying to give them access to the platform to cost-effectively distribute their content.
Some artists decided to rebel against the alleged exploitation committed by the streaming services such as YouTube, Spotify, or Pandora. An example would be Taylor Swift.
It looks like Taylor Swift is never, ever getting back together with Spotify, the #1 streaming service in the world, after Swift and her music label abruptly pulled her entire catalog from the service, which has 40 million subscribers. Swift has never seemed a big fan of streaming services, writing in the Wall Street Journal last summer that piracy, file sharing, and streaming have shrunk the numbers of paid album sales drastically, and every artist has handled this blow differently.
However, others try to accept it and even use it for their advantage.
I don't think downloading should be abolished or people should be punished for downloading music, because I think that it's played a big part within the media and within music, and without it I think a lot of the positive things that have come out of music in the last 10, 20 years would have never have come about, and you wouldn't be able to watch award ceremonies on TV, you wouldn't be able to find out information on your latest artist within 5 minutes, and you wouldn't be able to really buy gigs and hotels for every single show of an artist that you like and stuff like that.
You're losing money though, aren't you?
Yeah, but then you can make money in other areas by them having your music quick and easy, and it's accessible means that they also it's easy for them to buy merchandise and tour tickets and stuff like that.
Well, music is all about reinventing yourself anyway,
Exactly.
to stay fresh and all that. So this is basically the internet has offered an opportunity for people to reinvent themselves, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's not like people have stopped paying for media at all. There's still something called the economy of experience, where people go to music festivals, buy physical copies of books, buy vinyls, in order to get the feeling of tangibility and realness.
It's new, and people may still want to have those things in their houses because books do furnish a room. On the other hand, the portability, the convenience, and the fact that you can have 1,000 books on one tiny little handheld device means that that will probably become the preferred vehicle in future. So it looks as though that's going to come on stream. Books may remain for collectors, and they'll become very expensive items, and older people will prefer them to the reading on screen devices. But it's inevitable that the digital revolution will result in a great change in the way that words are transmitted to readers. It's already happening. It's creating all sorts of problems economically and otherwise. The technology is not yet good enough. It may be that in a few years' time we'll have an electronic reader device which is exactly like a book, but you slip your disc down the spine and then you turn what feel like paper pages, but it could be any book. It could be Pride and Prejudice, it could be Gone with the Wind, it could be War and Peace. You just choose at the press of a button.
So what we need is a solution which wouldn't deprive the audience of the comfort of using internet platforms, while at the same time supporting the artists financially.
Humans built just billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure to essentially help artists do two things. First, put their art on a thing. And second, get that thing around the world to the people who wanted the art. So much industry is devoted to these two problems. Oh my gosh, there's trucking companies and brick and mortar and marketing firms and CD jewel case manufacturers, and all devoted to these two problems. And then we all know what happened 10 years ago. The internet matures and we get Spotify and Facebook and YouTube and iTunes and Google search, and 100 years of infrastructure and supply chains and distribution systems and monetization schemes are completely bypassed in a decade. After 100 years of designing these things, it's no wonder that it's just totally broken for creative people right now. It's no wonder that the monetization part of the chain doesn't work. We're only 10 years into figuring out this new machine, to figuring out the next 100 years of infrastructure for our creators. And you can tell we're only 10 years, and there's a lot of trial and error. There's some really good ideas forming.
One of the available solutions on the market is called Patreon.
It's basically a membership platform that makes it really easy for creators to get paid every month from their fans to earn a living. For a creator, it's like having a salary for being a creative person. And this is one of our creators. They're called Kinda Funny. They have about 220,000 subscribers on YouTube. And when they upload a video, it gets somewhere around 15,000 views to 100,000 views. I want you to check yourselves right now. I think when we hear numbers like that, when we hear 15,000 views and we see content like this, we just like snap categorize it as being not as legitimate as like a morning show that you'd hear on the radio, or a talk show that you'd see on NBC or something. But when Kinda Funny launched on Patreon, within a few weeks they were making $31,000 per month for this show.
Perhaps you think that you are not harmed by this change in the media landscape. The artists were the only ones suffering, while your wallet and well-being stayed intact. Well, have you thought about your privacy? Probably not, just as we tend to ignore this issue every day.
However, the implicit price you pay for the free media is your privacy and intimacy, which becomes a product, subject to trade by big corporations in order to get loads of money from.
Are people aware of what they're trading when they contribute to the Google machine?
I think people are, whether explicitly or implicitly, pretty aware of what the trade-off is, and I don't think that's explicit. I don't think that's necessarily just for Google. I think as we go online, the deal is relatively straightforward. So when you go on Amazon and you click, and as you click through from product to product to product, you start to see the recommendations appear, either based on your past history or more typically your session. As you start looking for cameras, you start to see people who looked at this also looked at that. People who bought this, people who clicked at this bought that. In the course of your clicking, the service becomes more useful to you. The implicit, and for many people the explicit trade-off is that in exchange for watching over your shoulder as you shop, we will help you shop better. And no one seems to have any problem with this because this is they trust Amazon, and this is if you go into a store and the store assistant says, "Can I help you?" And if the store assistant is good and you're feeling like you need help, you'll go through this little communication. Here's what I'm looking for. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? A little bit more of this. The advice will get better and better and better, and eventually you will get what you want. Amazon does this exact same thing. So there's nothing new about this trade-off. In the same way that you don't, that in the store, as the assistant helps you shop, you're choosing to give up information about your preferences for the sake of a better experience. You do so as well in Amazon. If you don't want to give up personal information, you just don't have to log in to Amazon. You can do it anonymously. Google works the same way. You type in your search term, Caribbean holiday, and Google will give you a useful set of results, and they will also give you some ads on the side. And as your term gets more and more specific, maybe a date range, a price range, and things like that, the ads will get more and more specific and more relevant. Presumably at a certain point, not only are the search terms what you're looking for, but the ads are what you're looking for as well. And so you now have two sets of results to choose from. Now if the one on the right side, the ads, is actually even better than the one in the middle column, you will choose that one and you will click there. But it's your choice. And so, Google knows what you're interested in right now. Do they know who you are? Do they have a profile of you? Not in any real sense. But they're watching as you click. But because we trust Google to watch for the right reason, which is to give us better results, we're okay with this.
How might we give up personal information online?
Every single time we go online, every time we look at a website, every time we send an email message, every time we make a phone call with our mobile telephones, we're exposing ourselves, we're stripping ourselves naked to the view of anybody who is interested to find out what we're doing. We know already that private agencies are keen to look at the pattern of use of the internet that we indulge in so that they can target advertising at us. And governments in the Western world, indeed in the world at large, are anxious to keep a record of who people are talking to, what kind of information they're finding out, so that they can detect patterns of, that suggest crime or terrorism in the offing. And in all these ways, therefore, we expose ourselves to view through the use of these devices. Not that we would want to give up using these devices, they're just so useful to us, but they do expose us to scrutiny.
This implicit and explicit relationship, this trade-off that we have with Google, with Amazon, suggests that actually the web isn't free. Would you say that? Would you say that the web is free?
So there's two ways to look at this. There's the pure monetary definition of free, and then there's the sort of the broader definition of free, of an exchange of value. The web is if you choose to make it so, the web is very much free from a monetary perspective. Once you've paid for access, once you've paid your way in the door, your internet service provider or whatever, you can pretty much get what you want at no additional cost. That's from a strictly monetary perspective in terms of just taking out your wallet and paying cash. But I think that looking through looking at the world through the lens of pure monetary value is not the right way to do it anymore. I think we now realize that there are other forms of value that we sometimes actually value even more. There's time, there's attention, there's reputation.
The internet is a relatively young medium, and it has almost endless possibilities of use. Therefore, a way of transferring entertainment into the internet space hasn't clarified yet. All the questions about the value of content, fairness, and about privacy, they remain. We are the ones that will need to answer them in the future.